So Christine, just to jump right in, and for those who might not know Little Rascals, what would you say that, it stands for as a brand? What should folks expect from Little Rascals?
Fun. I wanted Little Rascals to be a safe space, not just for kids, but also for moms that are shopping. So I found, obviously, as a mom, when you're shopping with your little ones, you automatically feel judged when your kid's running around or maybe being a little bit loud or literally just being a kid. So I wanted it to be a place where you could come with your kid. I've got activities. Well, pre-COVID, we had activities kind of set up in a kids area where they could like hang out while you're shopping in peace. And we've also done like kind of community centered days. So we used to run so crazy pre-COVID. I'm like, we used to run this and now we've got to figure out how to do it. But we used to run a morning called Yummy Mummy, where you can come in the morning. We would open the store a little bit earlier and it was a place where you could come park your stroller. We had snacks, treats, there was a discount. And it was just a place where I think like moms and parents in general could come and just be good while their kids were with them and shop. So yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, so you've touched on it a little there, but when we talk about retail, I mean, there are lots of new retail businesses that go strictly to online straight from the get-go. Do you want to expand a little bit on what you've talked about in terms of why it was important for you to have a bricks and mortar location?
Well, I can honestly say not that I came about it easily, but I was definitely blessed to already be like the buyer and manager for Bamboo Ballroom. And that kind of transitioned into me having my own shop, which I got to share that space with the Bamboo Ballroom. So that makes it so much easier with having a brick and mortar, because with the brick and mortar comes like your rent and all your expenses. So I know it's almost the smarter choice to go online and then go brick and mortar rather than maybe brick and mortar and online. But I'm also a people person, which I think we touched on a little bit before the conversation started. I connect with people. I like need my community so that I can like understand what the demand is rather than it just being based strictly off like research that you do. So yeah, I think the brick and mortar for me is like my heart. Like I need that to be able to push my online for it to have like its identity.
Sure. So what is that experience like? How do you learn from your customers?
Conversations. I will listen to anything. What do you need? What do you want? What do you like? What do you dislike? And also being a mom, I have 2 kids. So my oldest is 17, so he doesn't count for, obviously for Little Rascals. But my 6-year-old, he's my tester. So like anything I buy for the store, if he like can play with it at the playground, the park, in the house, and it can withstand all his play, I know that it's a good brand. And also I expect that from my customers, like the feedback. I like to talk to you. I like to talk to your kids. I want to actually know what your kids like. So when I'm going to buy, I have kind of all these conversations going on in my mind to understand like what I need to bring in for my customers.
That's great. So what has been your experience of shifting online in sort of the COVID era? What's worked well, and maybe what are some of the things that you're worried about?
It's definitely, like I said, so because I'm a people person, it's a little bit harder for me when I am online and I'm having to like get my content and put everything up. And then it's just finding also that balance between being in store and being focused kind of on like my in-store sales and then being online. There's nobody talking to you. I don't know when you checked out your cart and you bought 5 items, like, were those 5 items you really wanted? Did you want something else? Did you want another color and you couldn't find it? I don't have that conversation. So it's kind of adding your personal touch to everything online and trying to keep all your options as open as possible. And I know a lot of people are kind of scared of putting their email address when like those pop-ups come up and they're like, sign up for this. But if you do it, I actually will follow up with you in your purchase. So if I see that you like left something in the cart, it's not necessarily that I need you to buy it, but I want to know why, and not in like why didn't you buy it? But like maybe you wanted a different brand or a different size or a different color and I can help you. So I've definitely learned to like be a little bit more interactive with like my social media, to be a little bit more interactive with like the question boxes or just any platform like that, so that I can still kind of have that personal touch and like vibe to what we're creating like online. But it's been challenging.
Oh, I'm sure. So what is a day like for you now, running a business that's going through a pandemic just like everyone else?
You know what? I really learned to not plan your day to like the T. You really have to go with what's coming, because So now we're like semi-open to the public, right? We're open on a reduced hours schedule. And at first we thought, okay, we're going to open and it won't be that busy. Well, we were wrong. We're going to open and everybody really wants to get out of their house. So people are constantly in there. So you might have planned like a day to like, I'm going to be uploading new product online all day. And you're like, I uploaded one shirt. That's all I had time for because I was in store, which is nice, but then it's finding that balance. And I think just not beating yourself up too sometimes. Like, I'm a mom, I run Bamboo, I have little Rascalz. So it's like, I need to like kind of create space for everything and for myself at the same time, but then also staying true to like kind of what we believe in and our like our ethics and whatnot. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just not planning everything down to a T, giving yourself goals, but then like, there's tomorrow. Tomorrow is there.
Yeah. Sure. So what are some of the things that you stand for in the way that you run your business and the way that you run Bamboo?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Okay.
That I stand for. Like I said, I'm a people person. I'm going to say that so many times probably throughout this conversation. So I like just stand for like human right. Like I want people to feel good when they're in this store. I like uplifting women is my favorite thing to do, like probably in the whole entire world. Like when I'm working as manager at Bamboo, I full-heartedly enjoy people going in to try on things and like helping them find the best thing for them. So like that's definitely one of my, like just making it a safe space, I guess, is probably like my biggest thing when it comes to the store and like the people that work for me and like that environment. What else is like a huge thing for how I like run it? And then when it comes to like, I guess buying, I've been really, really aware of like just even Bamboo's model for like that they had, I took for Little Rascalz too, is sourcing local. So trying my best to source like Canadian brands and like to really open those emails from like a young designer that's up and coming and kind of trying to figure out how we can work together to make their career push a little bit forward. And obviously for us to continue our growth too. And I think now with everything going on, like as a Black woman, I've always been aware of making sure that I'm like our diversity in the store is like, it's there and it's present. So I think now more than ever is just reaching out a little bit more to make sure that like the designers that we carry, kind of just digging into like, what are their beliefs also and making sure it aligns with what we're doing. Because sometimes we get caught up in like the aesthetic of everything being like, that's really nice, like you've got really great clothing, but then we forget that we should actually dive deeper and like make sure that everything kind of aligns so that you're not just a part of like a trend.
Sure. Yeah. So you've touched on it a little bit there. How has the surge in support for Black Lives Matter impacted you or your business?
I think for myself personally, I think I've like doing things like this, it's pushed me to be a little bit more vocal in in front of people. Because before that, obviously I know I'm a Black woman. I know that like I know what surrounds me, but then just being more vocal about it with everyone and being a little bit more upfront about it. And I definitely think people have supported and like they've come out and I think they're making more of an effort to support Black businesses. The thing I think that scares me the most of all this is that there is a surge, but then it becomes an afterthought. Like people aren't necessarily making that like cautious effort anymore to be like, okay, I'm going to shop and I want to shop local and I'm going to make sure that I'm diversifying what local means to me. And I'm not just shopping from people that necessarily look like me, but from everybody that surrounds me that makes like my local community. So I'm just hoping that with everybody kind of opening their eyes to this, that they stay open, I guess. And rather than it just becoming something that's like, well, that I did it that one time and it was great. And that's kind of it.
Right. Yeah. Have you found, I've read some things about, in a good way and a bad way, you know, Black-owned businesses being overwhelmed with this surge and then getting some impatient customers.
You know what? That's like a big thing, I think, with just local businesses. Like, there's always surges and things. And I always say, like, when you shop local, if you see 5 people working in that store, I can guarantee you that's their staff. Right. That's it. That's all. They're like the social media girl, the girl that's answering your emails, the girl that's answering the phone, the girl that's ordering, or the guy or girl, sorry, that are doing these things. Like, that's it. So when there's a surge, it's not as if though we can call 20 other people and be like, hey guys, you're all coming back on board. It's the 5 of us. So I always tell people, just be patient. We're not a huge corporation. We we can't guarantee a turnover like really quick, and we forget things. Like sometimes we spoke about before, like how during the pandemic, I had to split stock between the store and my home just to make it easier for delivery. But then sometimes somebody might make a purchase and I'm like, oh my gosh, the other half of your order is actually at the store. So now you have to give me time to like go to the store, get that done, and then be able to ship it out. So I would say patience is key when you want like quality of local goods.
You know, what are the other things that you think are unique to small scale retail?
I think it's just the fact that we're like able to listen to our customer, right? So we can actually tailor our stores to our customers, which is pretty cool, because I don't think you could walk into like a Walmart and be like, hey, like I really wish you guys would carry this brand. It's like, you know for sure that that's not going to happen. And like the manager's like, how do you want me to fix that? Like I can't, right? So I just think it's having that connection with my customers. And like I've worked at Bamboo pretty much the whole time I've lived in Edmonton, and like my customers have actually become like my friends. Like they come in and it's almost like I forget I'm working. I'm like, oh yeah, what's going on? Like, how's your mom? Hey, is your grandma coming by soon? Like you forget that you're at work. So like there's just such a unique thing about working in a local business in a community and really getting to learn everybody around you.
Right. So do you have any guesses already as to how COVID will impact retail?
I definitely think like these big corporate companies, I feel like they're going to feel it. Not to say that they're going to feel it more, because financially, I guess they kind of have the capability to like close their stores and it's okay, and they'll like kind of survive. But I think it's going to happen more because I think we've rallied as a community now. So I think through COVID, we've really understood like, okay, if we want to be able to go to like our favorite restaurant and it's not like a chain restaurant, we have to support it. And I think that's kind of trickled into retail also, with people realizing like, if we want that store that we love to still be around, now I need to make an effort to make sure that that's who I'm supporting and where I'm spending my money, rather than going to like these big box like corporate stores. So I like, and I also think online is going to be way more, like way bigger than it is now.
Right.
And like just as we go forward, like you notice that like we still are carrying like our online sales, but people also really do like just coming into the store to talk and hang out sometimes.
Yeah, and I think people love touching things and feeling them, trying them on, all of that sort of thing.
100%.
Are you seeing any change in sort of the movement against fast fashion, or how people are making choices about, you know, clothing and kids items?
100. You know what? Social media has definitely made us more aware of all the troubles. It's coming out, right? So I think with fast fashion, that's one thing. People are calling out companies. And that's kind of when I was talking before about like, how do we choose? It's like making sure that we're being smart about where we're getting our clothing, and like, wait, how is it actually being made? Okay, if you say it's being made in this country and it's not being made locally, like we need like certifications to make sure that you guys can back up what you're saying. So that's been like a huge play. I personally, like for Little Rascalz, we don't do fast fashion. Like I said, like our biggest brands, like one of our biggest brands actually manufactured in Montreal, which is so awesome. Like, so just like Canadian made. And I've been making an effort to make sure that that's like something that I'm doing. Fast fashion, I guess, has its place. And like financially, sometimes it's more of an obtainable goal to like order something that is fast fashion. But if you really want quality and something that's going to last you a little bit longer, it does come with like a price tag at times.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say is, or do you find is unique about being a woman in business? I mean, you're also collaborating with a female owned and run business in Bamboo Ballroom.
I guess that's like the most unique part. You know, I worked for an amazing woman, and then being given this opportunity kind of from her, right? Like I pitched the idea. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to do it. And to have somebody support you full-heartedly is the most amazing feeling ever. And I definitely think there's like a special connection between women, right? Like we're really good at being each other's cheerleader, and there's a mutual understanding of our daily routine in life and just society in general. So I've been put in a really special place, and it's a women's boutique. So I'm just surrounded by this energy constantly. And it just feels very like open and freeing. And there's never like that kind of like misstep. You're never really too scared of anything.
You have sort of been juggling the kids and work thing since before COVID in a way that many parents are learning to do now. How does that fit into what you do with your business and how you live your life?
I think kind of going back also to like being like, I plan my days, but I know that there's room for error. Because if you've got two kids, you have no idea what your day is really going to look like. I have a 17-year-old and a 6-year-old. So it's like I have both spectrums. So I have a 17-year-old that might forget like, oh my gosh, mom, I forgot to tell you that I'm actually have a basketball game tonight. And I'm like, what? You're telling me now it's 4 o'clock? Like I said, I was going to work until close and your brother, and you want me to figure this out. So I think it's really, I've learned to like, just roll with it. Roll with it. It's not going as you plan. That's okay. Just keep rolling with it. Just don't quit. My kids are like creative energy. And sometimes when I think something's like too wild or too big, they remind me that it's not. Like it's okay to be like that big and that wild and to dream like that, because kids do it all the time and they seem to think it's perfectly okay. And they're coasting through life. So I just feel like if we took that attitude a little bit more as adults and business owners, like we would be able to reach so many more levels than we obtain by like kind of enclosing ourselves in a box and like being like, no, at 3, I said I was going to do this, so I have to do this. It's like, but maybe 3 o'clock rolled around and that's not what's best for right now. So like, let's adjust that a bit. So yeah, motherhood and working, it's a juggling game. I'm in my personal circus all the time.
It's a very good way of putting it. So you've talked about the creative energy that your kids bring to your life. Do you have examples of where it's worked for you to just take your mind out of what seems obvious and go for something that's just wild and exciting?
100%. I talk to my son, my oldest son, a lot. Actually, I talk to both of them, which is kind of funny. But my oldest son, he is a creative, like he's an artist. So I love kind of like when I get a lookbook and I'm not too sure where I want to go with like a collection or whatnot, I'm like, hey, can you go through it and just circle everything you like when your eye sees it, what you would gravitate towards? Because I can get so caught up sometimes in like maybe what's trending or like what I personally like that I kind of forget that I'm like, wait, it's not just me that needs things from Little Rascalz. It's a business, right? So having that input from him is amazing. And even, you know what, my 6-year-old, it's the same thing. Like I might not sometimes be like, oh, I don't want to get a Marvel t-shirt for the store. Like that's so easy to get. And then he's like, Marvel? Like, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It's a kids clothing shop. Most of the parents that come in there shop with their kids. So it'd be nice to have things that like they gravitate towards, and rather than just like what I think like a basic t-shirt should be. And then he's like, that's boring. Like, let's like really spice it up. So yeah, definitely just kind of keeping like that, like, it's like a fire. Like I kind of, when I made Little Rascalz, I wanted it to be for like a free-spirited kid that wasn't scared to wear like 14 prints at once. So it's just remembering that that's where like the foundation of like the style that we were going for, so it stays in place. Like they are my constant reminder of that.
That's great. And then what about, because I'm sure it works well, you've mentioned it a little bit, the collaboration and just the support that you get between, Stacey and Kyla at Bamboo and the others that you work with. How does that influence what you do with your business and how you all work together?
What's cool about that is that it's like I'm constantly learning. So when I'm at Bamboo and like, I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like we should use this app. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can use that app too for Little Rascalz. So it's really cool because it's like collective thinking kind of constantly. So like, and I get to like, it's like trial and error too, right? So like if I see something didn't work there, then I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that. And just vice versa, I think for both of us. So that's been really cool. And just, I've learned so much about buying, budgeting, like you're saying, the brick and mortar online from having like that experience working at a local boutique before opening your own, which I think if you don't get to have that experience, I feel like you make probably a little bit more mistakes than I've made, because I'm lucky to have been in that environment before taking on like a venture like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for folks who might be thinking very tactically about their own business right now, what are some of the best things that you sort of improved upon or learned as you got to the place that you are now with your business?
don't be scared to ask questions. I think that's like my biggest thing, even just like with my employees. I'm like, if you don't understand something, you're best to ask somebody that's been through it questions, even if you feel like you're gonna look stupid. I can promise you that they were thinking the same thing at one point also. So I think asking questions is a huge thing for me. Jump onto as many tutorials as possible. You can literally Google anything and everything. So like, I always tell people, I'm like, did you check, like, even just with my kids, I guess, like my oldest is like, I want to know this. I'm like, did you Google it? Did you check this? Have you tried to see if there's a resource out there to use? Like I am not scared to learn, and I'm not scared to make mistakes. And I think that's like the biggest thing you have to kind of be ready for opening a business. You are going to make so many mistakes. You are going to feel like it's not working. You have nowhere to go. This is the worst day of my life. It's going to happen so often, and you need to be ready to like kind of push through those experiences every single time. So yeah, you just have to have perseverance and the energy, I guess, to really ride with it all the way through.
Yeah, it's a stamina game for sure. What have been some of the more surprising curveballs just in our current pandemic situation for you?
Again, I think it's just like my connectivity. Like I really like being in the brick and mortar because I like connecting with people. So I think when COVID hit and I was like, okay, so now my only means of communication is social media to like talk to my customers, it became a really tough game for me. And then again, like scheduling. So now I'm home, but I'm also teaching my kids and I have to stay on top of social, which is already hard when my kids were at school. So now you're telling me I don't even have a chance to speak to you. I really have to speak to you only from like social media. So like that was definitely like the hardest thing for me, but it definitely it helped me to move forward on my online, because I knew that online was important. I knew that my website was important and that I had to work on it. So it definitely just was, you got locked in a room. You want to make money, you want to be able to support your family, you want to keep this business afloat, you better sit down and get on your computer and like get those things uploaded and talk to your customers and reach out and send emails, because this is the only way that you can communicate now. So yeah, my computer's my homie now.
My daughter is so used to seeing us on our computers now that she's obsessed and always wants to bang on it herself. I'm worried it's going to come out of COVID broken.
Like, right? Like, oh, this is not a drum set. It is actually a tool.
Yeah, exactly. What is it like to navigate social media as a business owner? I imagine there's some good sort of community reinforcement that comes with the game if you're playing it right.
It's funny because I feel like I'm the worst person to answer this question. So for social media, I was so used to using it for my personal use rather than for business. Like I understood that as a business owner, you go in, I would check my DMs, I post my photos, but then there's just so many aspects of it, like posting stories, making it interactive with people, making sure that you're interacting, like you're saying, within your community of like for me, so retail and then kids clothing, but then trying not to, like I would find myself being on my Little Rascalz Instagram, but then liking photos that had nothing to do with it because I'd forget that I was on Little Rascalz. I'd be like, oh yeah, like why did I just like that with this account? Like that didn't even make sense at all. So being aware of things like that is so important. But I'm smart. I'm hiring somebody for my social. I know what my weaknesses are, and I know that that's one of them, and I need to outsource that so that I can have somebody help me express what I would like to see on my own page and how I would like to like interact with my community when it comes to social. Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. I mean, you say that you're the wrong person to answer that question, but I think you're the perfect person to answer that question because there's lots of folks who feel the same way. There are people who know social media so well, and then there are people like us who need to know how to stay afloat when it becomes more important. So what are some of the things that you like about the local business community?
Some of the things I like, I think, you know what, it's just the ease of being yourself. Like when you're starting a business, you are literally shaping it the way you want to, and it's a local business. So there's no, I'm writing my own rule book. I'm deciding what I want it to look like to the outside world, what I want it to look like to the people that are inside with me. And like, that's just such a cool opportunity to have to really create your own space. So sorry, I'm like totally forgot the question now. I'm like, what was I talking about?
Oh, curious, it is a good local business community. There are examples of where business owners do a really great job of supporting each other and championing each other. I'm just curious, for those who don't know that yet or who haven't experienced that, what you would want to point out or share.
Oh my gosh, get to know your neighbors. I like love my block. So like it's like Bamboo, then it's Laurel's, then it's me, and then it's Pip, and it's Nexa. Like I love all the owners of these businesses, and we constantly talk. And even before I worked locally, I just realized, like I used to work for American Apparel in Montreal a long time ago. And I worked at what they would call a community store, which was like a smaller size store that was like really in a neighborhood. And I was, as the manager, you'd be like a community ambassador. So you would go around and actually talk to like local business owners. So I think from that, I always knew that like knowing who surrounds you and like being able to say like, okay, I had a really bad week this week. Like, let me go into like another place and see like, has it been slow there? Like maybe they're running something that I should be running also. So that community is just amazing to be a part of, especially once you put yourself out there as like, okay, hey, like I need you, because we all need each other as a community to be able to build off of each other. It's the only way it's going to work.
Sure. Have there been examples of you, in your little strip doing that to figure out how to get up and running again with COVID precautions?
I think my biggest resource for COVID was definitely Bamboo. Like we have an awesome girl at Bamboo that does social, and then just kind of mimicking. I feel like, okay, so this is how you launch a product. Perfect. So now I need to make sure I do that also, right? So yeah, just like kind of looking at that. And then as we started reopening, I would like kind of just see what everybody else was kind of doing for the reopening. Okay, cool. We're going to limit capacity. We're only going to be open like for certain hours. We're closed these days. We're doing curbside pickup. So like kind of working, like you said, collectively to see what everybody's doing to make sure that we're all kind of doing it together, rather than like somebody's open all day and doesn't know why they're not getting any business. It's because nobody else is open, right? So just keeping that communication like open between all of us.
So what does curbside pickup look like for someone who's thinking about shopping online and then doing that curbside pickup?
You give me a call inside the store. We run it out to you, which is really awesome. Not just for COVID and keeping like our social distancing, but one thing I realized is for parents. Sometimes they don't want to get out of the car with like 3 kids. They actually just want to be like, hey, like I'm out front. Could you please run this out? So like curbside pickup has definitely been awesome for like that aspect.
Do you think that would be something that you would continue even?
Yeah, we're continuing it now. We still have people that will call and they'll be like, hey, I'm outside, just parked out. You could run it out. And I don't mind at all. Like, I really think it's just like an easy way to communicate.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the other things that either you're doing or they're starting to take shape as you get back into some sort of in-person connections with your customers?
I think the biggest thing that we're doing is definitely, so we've talked about community a lot. So again, as a Black woman, I am making sure to be more connected to my like Alberta Black community to kind of just help out. So Little Rascalz, like I've always wanted to kind of have some kind of like give back program. Mm-hmm. So we're going to definitely dive a little bit deeper, especially with the school season like restarting. So maybe doing some kind of initiative to like give back to the community and make sure that kids are going back with what they need, and just really putting like, I guess like maybe putting Little Rascalz a little bit more on the forefront when it comes to like my daily routine when it comes to work. And like really stepping forward with it and like diving into things that I connect with like on a deeper and like a more personal level. So I'm really excited for like the new year. We've definitely been chatting with like the right people and like sitting on the right calls to kind of propel ourselves forward in that means.
So as you're taking a bigger role or sort of making more time for that kind of advocacy, what sort of organizations or causes do you hope that your supporters are also supporting?
So I definitely want to work like obviously Little Rascalz kids, like kids is my biggest concern. And then my biggest thing is I want to make sure that communities that feel that they don't have can get. And like, that's like my biggest thing. So like, even like I've been, like I sat on the Federation of Black Canadians, like a phone call with them. And I learned about so many organizations that are like helping when it comes to like tutoring, when it helps to like getting like school supplies back to kids, lunch back to kids, winter gear, immigrants that are moving here from different countries that they come here and they're like, oh, winter is -40. I'm not prepared for that, right? So like I want to make sure that I'm kind of able to dabble in all those aspects and like give back to the community and make sure that like we're taking care of own. Like I always say, like our community is like deeper than just like when we look around, if like what you see is like a bunch of different colors, like that's all our community. So I want to make sure that that's what I see when I'm looking around and that everybody feels like they can come there. It's supposed to be a safe space. And like, I even played a game the other day with a little girl that came in and she told her mom the jacket was too expensive. She didn't want her mom to buy it. And I was like, how much do you think you should pay for it? And she told me, and I was like, perfect. That's how much we're going to sell it to you. That won't work every single time. But I'm just saying, like, I like the idea that you could come there and feel like that's an okay conversation to have. Like, I want to be able to, if I can't maybe sell you something like that, like I want to start like a recycling program where you can bring back little Rascalz clothing that have been gently used and I can donate that clothing to somebody that truly needs it, right? Without having to break the bank. So yeah, I'm really excited.
So you're touching on something that I'm sure a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs think about is how they can do more by running their own business, how you can sort of be controlling your own destiny and what you're able to give back to the community. What has that journey been like for you? We haven't really talked about how you started to how you got here.
It's been a journey. I think we kind of said it like how I need to carve out more time. So like right now I still work for Bamboo and that's like my heart. So it's just carving out more time now that I feel a little bit more stable with Little Rascalz. Because I think at the beginning when you try to do too many things, that's when you can end up kind of like drowning and just like being overwhelmed with everything you're trying to do. Where right now I feel that I'm stable enough to start branching out to really start giving back to the community that helped me get to this place, right? So yeah, the journey it's been interesting because it really started off as like, okay, like you've got like this little section inside Bamboo. Okay, now it's grown. Okay, now you're launching and like it's truly yours and you've got to like schedule yourself so that you're at both places. And then it becomes, okay, now you're doing okay. So when do you start taking those steps back so that you can kind of fulfill it on a like a bigger level? And I think that's where we're at right now, that within the next year, we're hoping to really just be our own thing. Yeah.
Cool. And so, you know, for folks who might be on that journey right now, were there things that made you know you were getting to a comfortable place where you could start growing or taking on new ideas, sort of expanding your focus?
I think as we were growing, it's crazy because I feel, so like as Little Rascalz was growing, I just realized that like everything else around me became a little bit harder, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, I don't really have time for this because I actually have to be around to like get these orders finished and like order this and restock and maybe make time for like for an interview for the store or just anything along those lines. So like as things became more consistent, I realized that this was the time where I can make like bigger decisions like that to like, okay, now that we have like a consistent customer base or like we know what our goals look like, I can take that time to like dive a little bit deeper into what I love and like where my heart like really lies.
Sure. So for folks who see this recording or who are going to sort of learn about this chat, who might not have shopped at the store yet, what would make them know they're a future Little Rascalz customer?
What would make them know they were one?
Yeah. I mean, what are some of the things that, you know, moms and kids and parents, you know, get excited about when they
come to the store?
Yeah.
They love snacks. I always have snacks.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Amor eats all my snacks actually. There's none left. I think the thing that people get the most excited about is like there's really a free spirit there. So like there's always something fun in the store, and I try my best to really try to capture like the essence of each customer, right? So I'm there to listen. I'm there to have a conversation. If you didn't like anything there, I would much rather you tell me that you hated everything and what you were looking for so that I can like better like the store, right? So like, I think when you come there, get ready to be my friend because that's what's going to happen.
Awesome. Oh, that's so great. So what do you hope sort of the post-COVID or the settled-in phase for Little Rascalz looks like as you're shifting your business and pivoting?
I'm genuinely just excited to see people in the store again. So I'm hoping as things kind of ease up and people can come out into the shop. So I'm hoping for people to come back in, and I'm just excited for community events. Like we spoke about, like I used to do Yummy Mummy. So I'm excited to reintroduce things where we can share as a community and just like dive a little bit deeper together. Because again, social media is awesome and I love it, but like personal connection, like nothing can beat that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've illustrated a few times how you're giving people more than just sort of the retail experience or the clothes or toys that they might be looking for. I mean, you've probably heard a whole bunch of comments about why folks come out to something like Yummy Mummies.
Holy cow, yeah. And sometimes, you know what, my favorite is when you come with your girlfriends. Like you literally are like, we haven't gotten together and this is our one time of the month that we can like go somewhere, try on clothes, like, and I literally will hang out with all your kids. Like bring me all the babies, bring me all the kids. We are gonna kick it in a circle and hang out and draw and color and have snacks. Like I just want to, like we're saying, just a place for you to gather and to feel comfortable gathering there, and just, it's like your home too.
I'm gonna attest to that because I actually, Christine was my first babysitter. I went to go have a beer at Next Stop and I dropped off Lennon and little Rascalz, and I didn't see him for like a couple hours.
All kinds of services there.
Oh my
I really do love kids, so like I really enjoy hanging out with them, like more than I even want to see the parents. I'm like, you could literally drop your kids off and I'm like, well, see, we close at 5 though, don't forget. Like,
That's magical. So that's clearly one of sort of the passions that got you into this.
oh yeah.
Is that really the crux of it?
Yeah, like I love kids without sounding horrible and like weird, but like I really do. I love kids and I love fashion, and I also just think like the coolest thing about kids and fashion combined is that they don't care. Like they literally dress how they feel. I feel like a dinosaur that wears a princess skirt. So what does that even look like? And then they put it together and you're like, that literally looks like a dinosaur wearing a princess skirt. Got it. So like there's something really cool about the age where you're not like really thinking about your body type and this and that, and even like your like girl, boy, like you're just being a kid, and there's just something so sweet about that. And then mixing that in with fashion is like, doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely. I think that kind of free spiritedness is great to encourage and reinforce. What makes you happiest to, be working for a small business, running your own business?
What makes me the happiest? I guess happy customers. Like or like when I'm working at Bamboo, I love watching a woman leave there and feeling better about herself. I used to do bar at a local place, and I used to get customers that were literally from that studio that would know me as the denim girl. Because they'd be like, I haven't worn jeans since I had like my last kid. They're 2. I'm scared of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, come see me. I promise I will get you in the right pair of jeans and you will leave feeling great. And there's nothing, it's like, it's really a great feeling when people come there and you can tell that they feel safe being there. And I think the same thing for like little Rascalz. Like I want people to come there, and I think being on White Ave is a little bit intimidating to some people. So I think they think boutique, they think kind of like snobby, I'm not gonna be accepted. So I love when I get a person that I know that maybe doesn't shop in that area or doesn't live around that area, and they come through and they're like, wow, that was actually so much fun. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. So it's like, it's really gratifying to be like, yeah, like there's people that are actually like laid back and chill, and like you can come to a boutique and you don't have to feel like, oh, I have to like talk with my pinky, like I don't know.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think anyone who knows you is going to understand that you are welcoming, and you clearly go above and beyond to make people feel comfortable and make sure that they're feeling good about themselves. What are some of the things that are hard? And I'm sure the last few months have had some pretty hard moments.
So like for the things that are hard, I guess like any customer service job, your job becomes hard when people aren't good. Like that's probably the time where I feel the most that I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? It's if you get a bad customer, and it's when people forget that you're human. You're going to make mistakes. It could happen that you come in and we don't necessarily have that, or you could come in and you hate everything in the store, but you don't need to go around the store being like, and I hate this and I hate that and everything's horrible, you know, like we're human, we choose what we think you need and want, and we're there to have conversations with you. And some people, like, I feel like they just completely forget that. And I've spoken about it before, also just being like being a Black girl that works for Bamboo and also owning Little Rascalz. And I can honestly say I love wearing sneakers and kind of like hanging like that. So a lot of people will assume, like start making assumptions about who I am to the company and where I stand. And it kind of makes me laugh at times because I'm like, oh, you've really just kind of summed me up that quick, like without having this conversation. And maybe you would have learned that I'm also a mom. And maybe you would have learned that I also own like a part of this business. And yeah, I think, so yeah, just bad, you know what, it really just comes down to bad people at times.
So I can totally understand that. You're throwing me back to my hospitality days, but you've got some resilience clearly, and you've got such a, you know, a positive attitude about things. How have you learned to be resilient through, you know, years of experience in retail and owning a business now?
I think it is just from that. I've worked customer service for a really long time. And you know what, being a parent, I think, has also taught me like just kind of patience. Cool, you've already assumed that and you've made your idea of like who I am. Like, I'm still going to treat you the way I would want to be treated, because there's no need for me to kind of stoop to your level for you to like understand. And if maybe you'll come back a few times and then you'll realize by the fourth time, like, oh my gosh, this wasn't so bad, or she wasn't who I thought she was, or he wasn't who I thought he was. So I think just always kind of like being positive. And if I really truly feel like attacked or whatnot, I just distance myself from that. I really try to create like no space for bad energy around me. And that's in my everyday interaction. So if you're a bad customer, I will literally have you in there and we will go through the transaction from A to Z, but it won't be like, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, let me try to like be super nice, like, cool, bring you through, have a good day, thanks for coming.
So what do you wish your customers knew, or just people in general knew, about the clothes that they buy, the kids products that they buy?
Oh, what do I wish they knew? So many things. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty open while I'm like in store and like with them. So I think just like know that you are literally supporting, and we talked about that where I was like, if you see 5 people in a store and it's local, those are probably the 5 people that work there. You are literally supporting those 5 people's lives. So like when you go in there, you can feel good about your purchase also, knowing that like the girl that just ran you through, like maybe you just helped her pay for her college tuition. Maybe you just helped somebody be a homeowner for their first time. Maybe you just helped somebody put dinner on their table for their kids for the week. So I think just really understanding that like every time you decide to support local, that you are actually impacting somebody's life directly, and you probably saw the person that you are impacting. That's a pretty awesome feeling if you really think about that.
Definitely. And so how does that frame the way that you shop, or like what are your favorite things here in Edmonton?
No, it definitely, that's like a huge thing. I am really aware of that. And it's like, I lived in Montreal before I moved here, and I really found my sense of community, which is so crazy, here in Edmonton, because I really saw how people pushed for local, and then really started to comprehend that I was like, holy cow, it really does make a difference when you do that, and your opinion matters, right? So like when you're supporting local, you can actually give people feedback and watch things change, and that's so cool, right? So I definitely try to like farmers market is like one of my favorite places to get like my groceries and make sure that like I'm connected in that sense. Even when it comes to like choosing where I eat, okay, I can't lie, I do love like a Cactus Club and Earl's, but I do make like efforts to support like smaller businesses and smaller restaurants that like literally need you to support them to stay afloat. And having a business has like opened up the gate for me to even learn more like people that don't have brick and mortars, people that only have online, people that only pop up at markets, and really be aware to support like those causes.
So put you on the spot here, what 3 practical tips would you give to other, retail business owners right now?
Tutorial videos. That for me is huge. I use Shopify for my platform for my store. Shopify literally every day has like something that pops up that's like, hey, do you want to sign up for this seminar? You're going to learn about this. It is such an amazing way to like navigate the whole online world. I've never, I tried Squarespace and other platforms, but Shopify by far for me was the best one. So, okay, so tutorials, find a mentor. I'm so lucky that I had Kyla to like be able to ask questions and to look up to and to like, and she's so open about making mistakes and learning from them. And that is like, that's priceless. Like you cannot put a price on being able to have somebody like that to like watch and to watch grow at the same time as you're trying to grow. And then third would be, I guess, like your circle of people around you. Keep people that are like, that motivate you around you, and also keep people that will call you out on it, right? Like sometimes like you can get caught up in doing what you're doing and they're like, hey, you're losing track of like what you said you wanted to like obtain. So like, let's get you back there. So having people that keep you accountable and keep that like positive energy around you I guess that's another like priceless. Or you said practical and I totally went into like friend circles and stuff.
But. Oh, that I think that counts as practical. I
was like, oh wait.
You nailed it. No, that's fair. Yeah. But I have to put you on the spot now, because knowing that Kyla's your mentor, I mean, she's done so much and she's, taken all of these sort of ambitious steps in her career. How has that inspired you, and what might be next for you in terms of like a big goal?
I think I've never met somebody as spontaneous as Kyla. So that's like, that's something that's influenced me a lot though, because when I talk about like not necessarily having to like have everything written out on a piece of paper and know minute by minute where you're going to be in a day, like it's really given me the ability to like dream big like that. And like everything you dream can be obtained. It's just there's a lot of work that gets put behind it. And I've watched her work from like sun up to sundown and be like, I'm still working. And I'm like, holy cow, I should not be like watching Netflix right now. I should probably get on my computer, because if she's still working, I should still be working. Obviously we all need rest and we all work at our own pace, but like having that kind of like force behind you, it like propels you to like always dream to do bigger and greater things, because you're watching somebody constantly like be like, okay, and this is what's next, and this is what I'm doing, and like I'm still working and I'm still pushing, and that's inspiring beyond words. So I hope to be that for somebody once I'm feeling like established in my position, that I could be that force for somebody else too.
Awesome. Well, I suspect you will have that when you want it.
Thank you.
To end on a really practical note for everyone on the call, how you've talked about the motivation that comes with seeing someone who's really working incredibly hard all the time. What kind of balance do you have in your life right now?
I definitely, COVID has definitely brought more balance into my life than I think pre-COVID, right? Like, and even just with our reduced hours, like it's given me that flexibility to dedicate time to like myself, to dedicate time to my kids, to dedicate time to my family, which has just been like priceless, right? Like, and I feel more energized to get my work done, because I'm energizing myself with the things that I love also, and not just like constantly, okay, work and then jumping from here and jumping from there, but like actually taking those moments for yourself.
Awesome. Well, it's been really incredible to learn about what you're up to and how you've gotten to where you are. I know we've got some familiar faces on the call. I don't know if anyone else has a question to put you on the spot for.
Yeah, that's good. Nobody embarrassed me.
You practiced ahead of time.
Well, my dad's coming.
Hey, feel free to jump in. I'm going to hand it back to Mike. We can see if anyone does have a question. Feel free to pop it in the chat. I want to say thank you. It's inspiring what it is that you're up to and what you aspire to with the next phase of Little Rascalz and all of the work that you do. You've pointed out that you've got a good strip, and it's true. There's a row of businesses, next door to you that I think many of us love and admire and cherish in the way that we go about our days. So kudos to you for that, and thank you for all that you've shared today.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you.
Well done.
Very well done. I think Dad can be proud.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dad. Thank you. Thank you.